Greetings everyone. Welcome back to Storytime Recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the films from 2022, Fall. Before we start, I hope your day be filled with sunshine and smile. Enjoy the story. Closest pals while climbing a mountain with Becky and Hunter. Dan, Becky's husband. While climbing, Dan wanted to hook his rope into a small cave. Suddenly, an animal flew, causing Dan to be surprised and hanging on his rope. Hunter wanted to save him, but he was too late. That Dan loses his footing and perishes. After a year, Becky stopped climbing and turned into a reclusive alcoholic because she still misses her husband and cannot accept the statement of his death. When Becky comes out of the bar, she meets her dad. He is worried about his daughter's health because her father James implied that Dan wasn't the right man for her. She has cut ties with him. That night, Hunter came to visit him after a long time. Hunter tells Becky that her father had told Hunter that he was worried about his daughter. Her father wants her to help her daughter to leave the past and want Becky to move on. Hunter extends an invitation for her to ascend the abandoned, decommissioned 2,000-foot, 600 meters B67 TV tower in the desert, where she can scatter Dan's ashes as a healing ritual, just before the anniversary of his passing. In an effort to move past Dan's passing, Becky first declines to go but later changes her mind and accepts. On their way to go to the tower, the two of them stopped at a diner to rest, and they asked the waiter where the TV tower was, and the waiter told them that the flashing red light was the TV tower. When Hunter and Becky show up the following day, on their way to their destination, they almost got hit by a heavy truck because Hunter's so focused on his YouTube while driving. When they arrived, they could not enter that area because there was a sign saying dangerous. They both had to walk until they reached the tower. While climbing the TV tower, Becky is still doubtful about her decision and traumatized by what happened to them before. But Hunter always encouraged him and told him not to give in to his fear. They managed to ascend a seriously corroded ladder to a small platform atop the tower. When they were at the top of the tower, where Becky scatters the ashes and, at last, releases Dan. But as they start to descend, the ladder collapses, leaving them stranded nearly 2,000 feet above the ground and several hundred feet above the next intact section. Additionally, the backpack containing their water and a tiny quadcopter drone has dropped onto a communications dish, and their phones have no signal, slightly outside of their rope's reach. Hunter initially believes that emergency services will notice the ladder crash despite the remote location, but assistance never shows up. While they wait for help, Hunter tells Becky that he started making vlogs because of what happened to Dan, and Hunter wants to use every moment he has so that he feels alive. When they attempt to use their cell phones, they believe the communications dish's radio interference is preventing the signal. Hunter tries to use one of her shoes to contain her phone and drop it out of the interference range, but before the message can be sent, the phone smashes on impact with the ground. Later, the two men camped out in an RV nearby and make unsuccessful attempts to speak with them. They light a flare gun they discovered in an emergency box atop the pole and wait for nightfall. When the men notice it, they take Hunter's car and flee rather than aiding them. As night falls, Becky discovers a tattoo on Hunter's ankle that reads 1 for 3, which is the code Dan used to express his love for her. Becky is not moved by Hunter's heartfelt admission of a 4-month affair that ended just before Dan and Becky's wedding. Hunter climbs to get the backpack the following day as penance, but she almost falls to her death. Even though she cuts her hand in the process, she manages to tie the rope to the bag, forcing Becky to exert all of her remaining strength to lift Hunter and the backpack. After charging the drone with the aviation obstruction lighting warning light on the tower and sending it a few miles away to a nearby diner with a written request for assistance, Becky's drone is hit by a truck and destroyed. Due to a lack of food and water, Becky becomes delirious at night. However, she briefly regains consciousness when she asks Hunter for her shoe so she can place her phone inside. It is then that Becky discovers Hunter actually fell onto one of the communication dishes and died. Ever since, Becky has been having hallucinations of Hunter. The vulture that is gnawing at Becky's injured leg the following day wakes her up and kills it for food. With some of her strength back, Becky descends to the dish where Hunter's body is resting and sends her father a text. She then slides the phone into a hole in the corpse's abdomen and pushes it off the tower, hiding it with Hunter's shoe. Hunter's body absorbs the shock, and the message gets through. Emergency services are notified by Becky's father and promptly rush to the tower. After being saved, she meets her father again. Becky apologizes to her father for the mistakes she has made and promises that she will be fine. Hunter's body was taken by the police,